live here from the Dubai Autodrome. It's Johnny Palmer and Bruce Jones to take you through the second event of the weekend in support then of the 18th edition of the 24 Hours of Dubai, powered by Hankook. And a splendid race yesterday. Admittedly, Jerzy Spinkovic actually got away by a decent chunk, but we kind of expected that from the qualifying times. What we did have was a superb squabble for second, third and fourth. And today, Bruce Jones, the fact that Alex Renner does not have a grid place penalty, he'll start from fourth position, so there could actually be an extra one in the mix for Saturday morning.
I will not be complaining because it was absolutely fantastic. And Stanislav Novikov was at the tail of that trio, and then he became the driver in second, and suddenly the Indian racer who was in second place had to fight and defend and did just a brilliant job. That was Ashish Manohar. He, we think, had a puncture in qualifying, so he's only fifth today, so the pot has been stirred. But what Alex Renner can do, we do not know. He wasn't competing with the front runners yesterday, but the dominance of Jerzy Spinkovic, he won by almost the end of the back straight with his rivals just turning onto it. That is a massive advantage, but he was a second faster than the rest in qualifying and put on a masterclass. But even at the end, he was really flying.
Let's have a look at the grid then. After a 2:23.318, Jerzy Spinkovic with his second pole position in as many days, starting alongside Chen Han Lin, the first of the Taiwanese drivers, 2:23.7. So there is a 4/10 of a second gap between the first and the second place cars. Stanislav Novikov, who was involved in that trio for the podium yesterday, starts from third, and alongside him, the German driver Alex Renner with the AR Motors preparation, car number 99 on the outside, or rather the inside of the second row. Ashish Manohar, who finished second yesterday, puncture though in qualifying for this race, so he starts from fifth alongside Ji Kao, another Taiwanese driver. Rahil Taneja is in seventh in car number 8. Alongside him is Will Morrison in 8th place, and to complete the top 10 is Ahmed El Malehi in the 64 car. Alexander Chakava is alongside for company. 11th position, Charlie Simmons in the number 28 car, a 2:26.4 for her. Alongside her is Kevin Day in the 75 car, a 2:26.8 qualifying time there. Then the 2 and the 27 cars, Nadir Zahur, joined by James Greenwood. And finally, Chan Yi Lin, who again I think should offer a bit more pace in the race, starting only 15th with a 2:27.819. So could be again somebody to watch working their way through the order. Unique racing car then to complete the grid behind South African James Greenwood. All of these cars identical. They are Clio Cup machines that always provide superb racing. They also stand up to a little bit of punishment if that's the nature of the racing. There was just an element of merest of taps yesterday, but thankfully, although we had some early spins, and that's something to be mindful of as well. The opening lap could be pretty hairy because offline this track is very dusty indeed. Might be green as well because there's been no running, obviously, for a number of hours now, overnight and into this morning. But the rear tyre temp takes a good lap, Bruce, to really get there so that you can push on that second racing lap.
It was so interesting seeing who dared to push too soon.
Yeah.
Stanislav Novikov did it, and he had a number of moments where the tail of the car just wasn't wanting to play at all, but he was good enough to keep it going. And then you can see after about, we reckon, 2 to 3 laps, the heat seemed to be in everybody's tyres. The handling came back, but the driver starting on the inside of the front row, Lin Chen Han, he just seemed to have a car that was superbly set up. In front of him, Ashish Manohar, his car was moving around a lot more, but it wasn't for want of trying, but it was in that trio. Are your door mirrors facing the sky or the road? And 2 of the 3, certainly after a little bit of contact going into turn 14, saw more of the sky than the road. But it was great racing, but so beguiling on the opening sequence of corners through turn 1, and that's the sweepers to try and push. And we saw one going off at turn 6, one going off at turn 3, a fair bit of avoidance, but really, generally, really clean racing. Wheels in the air, as always, with these Clios around the tighter corners. Great to see.
Yeah, there were early spins yesterday for Ji Kao, who starts in 6th, for Charlie Simmons from 11th. And we had a spin later on as well for a couple. So, and then, really, it's a race of recovery. Bear in mind, you've only got 25 minutes plus an extra lap. Why the extra lap? Well, the idea is that this race doesn't run any further on than the half an hour. But, of course, if that final lap starts just before the 25-minute marker, then it will extend to what's a decent lap time around here, 2.5 minutes probably within race. So yeah, we're looking like a maximum of 27.5 minutes there or thereabouts. And I think most of the support races yesterday ran to their absolute maximum length, and it meant that we were enforced with a delay for qualifying then for the main cars.
Yeah, so already we've had the Formula 4 UAE and the Formula Renault, Formula Regional Middle Eastern Championship out on the track this morning. These cars, though, when you look at them on the grid, they seem very small, don't they? The track looks very wide, but when you get down to the first corner, suddenly it starts to narrow a bit. But it's a great circuit for racing, and these cars, frankly, just work anywhere. Jerzy Spinkovic been really strong in the European series for a number of years. He has got the gold standard here, and we think he's actually played a major role in sorting Unique Racing set up for these cars, because certainly they're running 4 cars and they all look very good. Chan Yilin, Chen Hanlin, Ji Cao, all 3 Taiwanese drivers, and the pole, Jerzy Spinkovic, who's starting on the side in front of the grandstands, the side away from the pit wall. He will be, and is, on pole position.
So final instructions being sent to the drivers, and I just wonder whether, I thought the marshals were looking in a concerned fashion at one of the cars, perhaps because it had stalled, but everybody else is able to drive away, and one car at the back actually now stalls, having said I was concerned about a car actually on the right-hand side of the grid, but that was Chen Yilin, who initially didn't move, but is now rolling in the dark blue colours. A lot of these cars, when you look at them face on, are white, but thankfully there are 1 or 2 there further down the order that are very easy to pick out. And we will clearly be able to spot Jerzy Spinkovic, because he was hard charging from the off yesterday, and the more although the inside of the grid is, you would think, the favourable line into turn number 1, actually pole position is on the cleaner side of the road, so to driver's left, and therefore he'll have to jink across the line of Chen Hanlin, assuming he gets a slightly better start. This is a staggered grid, so therefore he starts a full car length ahead of Chen Hanlin over his right shoulder. Great conditions for day 2 of this race meeting. We did have some invitational sessions for the main cars mid-week, but free practice for the 24-hour cars starting yesterday morning, and then all manner of qualifying sessions, 4 independent 15-minute sessions, and the full hour of night practice, as it was coined. And these cars have had a separate qualifying session for race 2 this weekend, but it's the 2 teammates that start first and second. Going to be tricky to tell those apart actually on the first lap. Jerzy Spinkovic from Chen Hanlin in the white, principally white, but with the black and orange detailing.
I'll give you a clue how we can sort them out. Chen Hanlin only took the inside line into turn 1. Remember, he was defending that second place. He was resolute. If you were going to go past, you had to look to the outside, and that was where Stanislas Novikov looked very handy, very happy to take a wider line. But certainly for Yashish Manohar, he was so doughty in defence yesterday. But let's see how it shapes out. But certainly 25 minutes plus 1 further lap will provide plenty of interest.
The other intriguing thing yesterday was the setup of Jerzy Spinkovic's car, because yes, he had best part of half a minute as a lead, but in those closing laps down towards turn 10, he hit the anchors as he would normally do, and the rears were locking up every single time. That cannot be by design, more so a sort of setup that evolved during the race.
I think so. I think he just did it to keep himself interested,
well,
because such was his advantage. And you know what? The win was in the bag. The only person who could lose it was Jerzy himself, and I think he was just experimenting how deep, doing the sort of Gilles Villeneuve approach to when he arrived in Formula 1. Push as deep as you can into corner and see what happens. But of course, he knew he had this second race here this morning at Dubai Autodrome, and let's see what he can manage. And more to the point, what the quartet behind can manage as well. So Chen Hanlin, his teammate, will be starting second. That is going to be an advantage. But let's see what happens down into turn 1. We know the order often is given a little bit of a shuffle in that opening corner.
So cars working their way now out of turn 15, the right-hander, which is uphill on approach. There's then a slight rise between 15 and 16, so you're coming back downhill. I mean, these are not steep angles, but nevertheless something to bear in mind as you home in on turn 16. So crucial to get a good run out of that corner. Slow in and fast out, as Joe Bradley always tells me on the simulators. because that will determine your top line speed then on the main straight, and so crucial to be quick down there heading into turn number 1. So, not quite fully forward in their grid slots, I noticed, Jerzy Spinkovic and Chen Hanlin. I wonder whether they've got different reference points which have been given to them by the teams. But the green flag is waved at the back of the order, nevertheless. And round 2 of this year's Clio Cup Middle East about to get underway. 5 red lights are quickly extinguished, and there's wheel spin north and south of the grid, and it is a good getaway actually from Chen Hanlin, who can almost draw alongside Jerzy Spinkovic, but it's the pole that does get away from pole position more sufficiently than the Taiwanese to his right and now behind. But whole gaggle 3 abreast for 3rd position, and slotting up the inside may well be Alex Renner, but sideways again, just as we had yesterday. One car, it was the 65, I beg your pardon, of Ji Cao. He did exactly the same yesterday, although fully lost the car on Friday. So he kept the right boot in and straightened it up very neat and tidily indeed. And out of turn 3, 4 and 5 now, yes, Ji Cao has lost places from his initial getaway, but is still in the mixture.
Well, the first 2 cars are clear by about 10 lengths after that. The car in 3rd going not 90 degrees from the north, about 85, and that was a massive, massive save. And of course, those in behind had to run over the white line, beyond, over the dusty stuff, and eventually back onto the circuit. But for Unique Racing, well, Jerzy Spinkovic looked at first so he was going to be side by side with his teammate, but Chen Hanlin couldn't quite match him. A few cars at the back of the field trying to make recoveries, running very wide as they come out of turn 9 onto that long back straight. But at the moment it's Spinkovic very comfortably with Chen Hanlin tucked in behind, well clear of the rest.
And the rest headed by Yashish Manohar. So yes, he didn't have a great qualifying, 5th position, but he's already up to 3rd. 4th position just slotting through, we'll identify in a moment. But also there, Will Morrison not very far away in the bright red and yellow colours. Alex Renner, I think, tucked in behind. So he didn't, although started from 4th position, he's lost a bit of ground, as there is Chan Yi Lin hitting the curb at turn 11. They're now rounding turn 12. Spinkovic, and at the moment Chen Hanlin going with him in 2nd position, then the gap back to Yashish Manohar.
Well, let's have a shout out for Will Morrison. Not only is he going very well in this race, moving up the order, he's got the easiest car to spot. It's the one in solid red and yellow. Looks absolutely brilliant and stands out from these largely white race cars with, let's say, different colour flashes on them. And the EBC livery, dark blue, white and pale blue, looks very good as well. That stands out too, so good to see that in the mix.
Kevin Day and Alexander Chakava having a good scrap. It was Kevin Day on the inside in number 75 of the left-hand kink at turn 13. Now up the inside of the 65 car, Ji Cao loses a place as they will whip across the line now to confirm in the lead Jerzy Spinkovic from his teammate Chen Hanlin, and in 3rd position Yashish Manohar from 5th, his starting spot. In fact, at the line, Stanislav Novikov timed us ahead, beg your pardon, from Will Morrison. So Yashish Manohar had a bit of a nightmare in the closing stages of that lap.
He did, fell down to, what is it, listed as 6th place overall, but there was a lot of slip as people were trying to recover. But certainly Yashish Manohar got hampered at that first corner on lap 1, but now he's putting his fight back. What's the gap between 1st and 2nd point? Nearly 0.9 of a second. Spinkovic from Chen Hanlin, Stanislav Novikov, car number 10 in 3rd place. Yeah,
so Manohar taking 42 seconds to complete that final sector, whereas a good time through there is more like 39 seconds, so about 3 seconds lost, maybe with a half spin. It was very close a moment or two ago, heading down towards turn 1 from the grid. And that was just prior to the spin, or half spin, for Ji Cao. And Ji Cao crossing the line at the end of the 1st lap in 7th position behind a recovering Yashish Manohar.
Yesterday it was very easy for the TV director to know where to point his cameras, that battle for 2nd place, 3 cars. Now he needs to look at 88 and 65. They clashed on the start-finish straight, coming down to turn 1. At 88 being driven, 65 by Ji Cao, 88 of course is Yashish Manohar, running on his own because of course he's the only driver from the pole position team. He has now got in front, but that whole element of deep in and maybe not so quick coming out, he's just got that 88 still in front of 65. So Ji Cao, who had that spin the opening lap yesterday, a moment today, he's having a lot of fun, but he's not making the progress he'd have been wanted, but a great scrap.
And yeah, from a distance, again, two white cars, difficult to tell apart. But actually, the 65 racing with much larger numbers in the windscreen. I think Yashish Manohar, or rather Ajit Kaur, has mixed his numbers up, and the larger numbers should be on the side of the car. I'm not sounded enough to have worked that out, by the way. But there are different size numbers that are given to you by the officials. They might have been applied in the wrong places, but that's useful for us when we're trying to identify cars from a distance. As Jerzy Spinkovic leads the way by 0.8 of a second from Chen Han Lin, the leading championship car. We've got three different classes in this: championship, gentleman class, and then two cars that are not involved in that. They're in the top class, if you like. Jerzy Spinkovic, our race leader, and Stanislav Novikov running in third as out of the final corner. Still two abreast. That was Will Morrison trying to get alongside the 99 of Alex Renner. And Renner actually got the place, but way out in the red grasscrete there was the 65.
What you need to understand about turn 16, the final corner, it offers lots of space on the exit, and then suddenly the curb starts to come across on you, and we've seen cars get very close to the end of the grandstand there. Yes, there's a gravel trap, but so easy to slide out wide, and then you've really got to sort it out. And yesterday we saw a spinner, one of the cars bounce off the curbs. We've just seen another car going in back. Was it not Charlie Simmons?
Might have been Kevin Day, possibly. Right sort of colour scheme for that car, but we'll check through the first sector. Safely through and onto sector 2 goes Jerzy Spinkovic. Big lead now. It's much more than 1.2 seconds as it was at the line. And I noticed that Chen Han Lin didn't get through sector 1 comfortably either, so he's lost a lot of place. He's lost about 10 seconds actually. The 57 car is off, so Chen Yi Lin is off the road, but there are concerns for Chen Han Lin as well.
And I was just about to say, he's putting on a much better performance. He was 1.2 seconds down on Jerzy Spinkovic, who yesterday just went sprinting way clear, and now he's set himself back, as you say, by 8 seconds in that opening sector. So clearly cars going around all over the place. In fact, we can hear a lot of tyres squeal through the cameras as well. You
were spot on, by the way. It was Charlie Simmons who we were trying to work out which car initially spun. I suggested it was Kevin Day, but his route through sector 1 was absolutely fine. But Charlie Simmons has lost positions. She spun in a similar area there yesterday too. But where now in the mix is Chen Han Lin, because new second place car is Stanislav Novikov, and also up to third Alex Renner with a personal best through sector 2. I reckon Chen Han Lin has slipped to something like 6th or 7th, but we'll confirm that at the control line at the end of this lap, which is lap 3.
And you know what's such a shame there, Johnny, is because for Chen Han Lin, if he'd been able to stick within sight of Jerzy Spinkovic, he'd have been able to watch the master. He'd have learned so much as you often used to say that Sterling Moss back in the 50s did from racing behind Juan Manuel Fangio. Not that Sterling needed to learn, but you can always find another little increment, can't you? Follow the master.
Absolutely right. Down the hill into 16. Kevin Day arriving in the number 75 car. Tucked in behind is Nadia Zuhur, and Rahil Taneja with him for company as well. Really good dice actually for 7th downwards, all the way back to the James Greenwood car, which crosses the line now. And the two delayed drivers, Charlie Simmons and Chen Yi Lin, only heading across the line now with extended laps times. Big lock-up for the number 2. Is it going to be able to make turn 1? Well, yes, just about. Nadir Zahur, I was about to say, stays on the road. He did initially, then has to dodge the large polystyrene blocks, so make sure he doesn't clean those out. All of that has cost him time. And what you can't do, of course, is go way out wide there and gain lap speed by effectively cutting turn 2. Well, so he needs to kind of show that he's eased off the throttle before rejoining safely.
Yeah, came back in by fellow track time racing runner Rahil Taneja, who had a previous moment. That was a massive lock-up. Plumes of smoke running far wide from the side of the car there, but very spectacular. And further around the lap, someone else deciding it's not enough grip on the track, let's go with there's even less grip, out beyond but back on. But again, at the Dubai Autodrome, there is that possibility. If you do get it wrong, there is space to gather it up, bring it back on board. Now, your estimation that Chen Han Lin would fall to 6th? Spot on, Johnny. Years in the commentary box, pays marks. So now Jerzy Spinkovic leading from Stanislav Novikov by 8.3 seconds. This is more like the margin he had yesterday.
Very close again between a recovering Nadia Zuhur and the 64 car, which is now ahead of him. So Ahmed Al-Malehi has had a great opening to lap 4. He had his best race lap of this event, 2:27.0, last time around, and looking to improve yet again. Also quick in that sort of area is Alexander Chakava on this lap, but nobody can quite match the speed of Jerzy Spinkovic, who managed a 48 through Sector 1, and a 56.5 is the best Sector 2 time of the race so far. Side by side again, and very nearly running off the road as a result of that was the 65 car, 65G Cow, and just showing the nose behind is the red and yellow car of Will Morrison, which has lost quite a bit of ground since we last checked.
Coming out of turn 14, G-Cow, he is drawn magnetically to Yashish Manohar. They clashed on the start-finish straight about 3 laps ago. They've clashed again in and out of turn 14. Now they come down the slope out of 15, and Manohar running very wide on the exit as well, trying to gather it up. This is a battle that's not over. But the big difference today is we've got numerous recovery drives. That was biff and bash, wasn't it, Johnny? I'll hit you, you hit me, between 14 and 15. I think the stewards might want to have a look at this duo.
Yeah, Yashish Manohar was on the driver's right, and the 65 on driver's left, G Cow. Manohar completing that lap in 5th and just half a second ahead of G Cow. Kevin Day was looking for an opening as a result of that contact. He in turn has got ahead of Will Morrison. So Morrison up and down like a yo-yo at this stage. He climbed as high as 4th and was battling with Alex Renner, but had a slow lap that time through, a 2:30, whereas his best is a 2:26.
Yeah, he lost 4 seconds in the opening sector. I think possibly we've seen so many cars going off. He might have been one of them, but I don't think he was. I think he was probably avoiding other people rejoining. But let's see what Morrison can do. Car number 69, it's red and it's yellow and it stands out, but he'd like it to be further up the order. But there are 2 cars in front of him. G Cow in 65 and 88, Yashish Manohar, who have been clattering into each other, not once, not twice, but 3 times that we have seen. I think there could be more fireworks to come as they work their way around the circuit. And now G Cow dives out from behind. Oh, yes, we're touching again. Why not? Let's go for... Well, you've done the hat-trick. Keep on.
Making contact on the straight, though, which I'm sure will be frowned upon by the race officials. There's no need to adjust the steering, necessarily. But they were at it a little bit like this yesterday as well, although it's more substantial contact today between Manohar and G Cow. And the 88 car was doing all the defending yesterday to eventually cross the line in 2nd place. Yeah, that's just a little bit of Manohar drifting over to the left, not realising that 65 car was already there.
If you look under the tail of 65 on the rear of the car, there's damage on the back of that as well. Not on the corners, you know, almost plumb in the back of the car. So the Taiwanese racer, one of 3 of them in the race, pushing super hard, but Yashish Manohar is having absolutely none of it. There they go, turn 14, right, left rear wheel up in the air, the tighter line. Oh, they came within half a car width.
They did.
Oh, they're being a little more careful now. 14 turns to 15, over the crest, down the drop they go, fighting as though it's for the lead. They're actually fighting over 5th place. Don't tell them that.
Well, if G Cow had been confident enough to open the steering up slightly more out of 14, he would have carried really good speed, but I think he was more concerned about avoiding contact, so put an extra bit of steering input in, and it meant he wasn't then in a position to overtake at either 15 or 16, but it's definitely the 65 car that almost carries the Brazilian stock car style numbers in the windshield, unlike all the other cars in this race. That's the car that's quicker for me than Yashish Manohar. Kevin Day, though, now attaching himself onto the back of this scrap for 5th position. 5th, 6th and 7th completely together. Yeah,
and Will Morrison joining in as well. He had that setback a few laps ago, and he's got company. He's being pushed very hard indeed by Alexander Chachava, so it's going to be a 5-car battle for 5th place. Meanwhile, Jerzy Spinkovic, 10.8 seconds to the good, cruising as he did yesterday. If the field won't come to him, he will go out and just simply have fun. But 15 cars started the race. You can't be sure we're going to have 15 finishing. Such is the action. We've got only 5 laps on the board. We're pretty much halfway through the race. Still 11 3/4 minutes plus 1 extra lap at the end, don't forget.
Yeah, let's hope they've applied enough fuel for the extra run as well. No idea quite yet of how long that will be, as this time the 65 car did get a much better exit out of turn number 9 and was brave enough to steer slightly to the right to make sure that it was clear of the nose of Yashish Manohar, but Manohar's still carrying good pace, and now around the outside of turn 10 it will need to be, and on the brakes, if Kevin Day is smart, he will park the nose of his car right underneath the 65 of G Cow, but Kevin Day cannot prize the opening on Yashish Manohar. A place change though, at least one. G Cow now ahead in 5th.
And in fact, in that quintet going into the braking zone of turn 10, at the end of the back straight, the driver in the back of that pack, Alexandra Chachavar, locked up, squirmed, nearly clattered into the back of Will Morrison, desperate to get onto the tail, but they are nose to tail. A little bit of a gap back to 10th place then. That's Ahmed Al-Malai. He must be going, hold on, how come everyone else is in a real posse? He isn't, but the way they fight, he could be on their tail fairly soon.
Huge lock-up for Manahar. He nearly piled into the back of G-Cow then, but somehow they avoided that, and this is Kevin Day's opportunity potentially to get his front wheels level with Manahar's rears, but there was no way through again out of turn 14. Quite how Yashish Manahar avoided oblivion there, I've no idea. He was a stout defender yesterday, but he had to get out of that scrap as quick as possible.
I think he could read the writing on the sidewalls, the tyres in the tyre wall there. He was so deep into turn 14. It's an uphill left-hand, a fabulous corner, brilliant place to watch racing, but he so nearly dropped it completely. Huge lock-up. And now down the start-finish straight, Kevin Day is exactly alongside. His nose is marginally in front, but he's on the outside line. And having seen how Manahar plays, he's not going to leave the door open into turn 1, but Kevin Day muscles him over towards the curb on the inside and gets in front by the time they get to turn 3. Good move.
That's a super overtake, that, and well thought out as well. Kevin Day running in the gentleman class, remember, sort of makes a clean effort to get by a championship runner in Yashish Manahar. Manahar will have a brand new set of tyres to kickstart this race, but not able to really make them work in the race to this point. He is losing time, yet still to a couple of cars behind, who are now Will Morrison and Alexander Chachavar.
You sort of feel that Yashish Manahar needs to sort of cool down a little bit, focus, because he's had that big lock-up a lap ago. He's had quite a few moments where he's had door-to-door contact with G-Cow. G-Cow pulling clear now in 5th place. Actually got a margin of best part of a second. Oh, luxury.
Now, there's going to be a 5-second penalty for Kevin Day in car 75 because of a start line incident. Whether that was a jump start, we'll have to try and find that out. There's also a warning flag for track limit infringements for car 88, and the two that have been playing at it rather harder than we would have expected, although it's typical Clio racing, they are under investigation now for multiple side-by-side contacts. So that is being looked at, the battling between Yashish Manahar and G-Cow. And
Kevin Day has just come through 5-second penalty for race start infringement, so that'll drop him down the order. Indeed it does. All he can do now is just press on and see how much of that 5-second deficit he can claw back, but it's about getting clear of the group, and I really sense some people have caned their tyres rather too much too soon in this race. We've got 8 minutes plus one further lap to go, and Alex Renner now starting to run a bit deep. He's up into 3rd place, but he's now he's quite close to Stanislav Novikov. He's actually only half a second down at the end of the last lap, but certainly having locked up, that would have cost him a few tenths, and he's got company from behind because 58 pushing very hard indeed. That's Chen Han Lin, who started on the outside of the front row, ran in 2nd, fell back to 6th place with something happening to him down in Sector 1 a few laps ago, but he's showing the pace that Unique Racing has provided with, and yesterday he just looked fantastic around the circuit. Didn't get the win, but certainly showed great form, and now he's fought back from 6th to 5th to 4th to 3rd.
Yeah, good move on the brakes there on Alex Renner to slot ahead then, and also G-Cow not very far away. Kevin Day's penalty, I'm not sure whether that's been enforced in race quite yet, because he's now ahead of Yashish Manahar by 2.2 seconds, the timing screen would have us believe. I'll just check next time we clap eyes on Kevin Day as to whether that's his actual road position. It might be that the 5-second penalty is only added at the end of the race.
Yeah, I think that's the stage at the moment.
Jerzy Spinkovic leading by 14 seconds over Stanislav Novikov, with no longer Alex Renner in 3rd. He slipped behind, or rather Chen Han Lin pulled off a cracking overtake down at turn number 1 to get back up to 3rd position. He started 2nd, as Bruce has mentioned. So it's car 125, not in the shot at the moment, well ahead, but Stanislav Novikov is running in 2nd position. It's easy to forget that we've got a runaway race leader as we had yesterday, but in the similar colours from that crew, Unique Racing, is Chen Han Lin now taking the fight to Novikov in 2nd. Also good dicing for Nadia Zahor with James Greenwood behind. Yes, and just the 27 car and Rahel Taneja in number 8. They are completely together for 11th, 12th and 13th.
Must say, looking at the drivers in the second half of the order, every single one of them has had an incident, as far as I can work out. If any of them haven't, they'll be much further up the order than they might have expected to be. But that's the nature of Clio Cup racing. A circuit like this encourages racing. It really does give you opportunities, possibilities, places at which you can make a pass. But it also provides great gaggles of cars because there are multiple lines through corners, and it does mean not always easy to defend if you're at the front of a gaggle. But at the moment, car number 2 being driven very nicely indeed by Nadia Zuhor. Probably the kiss of death coming up, but right behind James Greenwood. Yeah. Oh, and a couple of offs, and car 32. Don't forget that started, down towards the tail of the field, and that has clattered into the barriers out of turn 14. That's Alexander Chacheva and car 88, Yashish.
That's a shame.
Manohar, who fought so hard, he's got a crumpled front end, marginal crumple, but you can see the blue of where he's hit the sort of banding in front of the tyre wall there. So he pushed hard, he'd had his moments, he had some penalties possibly coming his way. It matters not now, that will be him out of the race. So Yashish Manohar out of the running, Alexander Chacheva out of the running.
Yeah, what I don't know is whether they'd made contact to then go off together. I think you're right in that there was evidence of damage to the nose from circuit furniture, from a barrier somewhere for Yashish Manohar, but was there initially contact between the two of them? There's also been a pit stop for Chan Yi Lin, and it's unlikely that Lin will reappear, I think, whereas Chen Han Lin still going very strongly indeed, up to third, as we've mentioned, and now leading the championship class from Ji Cao, who is currently 5th overall.
Newsflash for you, race leader Jerzy Spinkovic is slowing, but only by a 1/10 of a second a lap. He's still the only driver lapping in the 2-minute 23s, lap after lap after lap. He is 15 seconds clear of Stanislav Novikov. Chen Han Lin now up, as we saw, into 3rd place overall, but 125, another masterclass.
Chen Yi Lin no longer lonely in the pit lane because he's been joined by a damaged Yashish Manohar, I'm afraid to say. The 88 car crawls its way down towards the team so that they can assess the damage, but in one of these sprint races, even if you are able to tape the bonnet down, you're easily going to lose a lap, and they might elect just to retire on the spot. The bonnet will need to receive some attention because there's about a 2-inch gap now between the bottom of the hood and where it should be located, just above the headlights there. And the air will get in there very quickly indeed to potentially whip it back across the windscreen. Big lock-up this time for the 2nd place car of Stanislav Novikov. This is the opportunity that Chen Han Lin has been waiting for, and Alex Renner is right there to take advantage as well. 3.5 minutes left on the clock. We'll do an extra lap at the end of that, remember. And just like yesterday, although it's different cars, 2nd, 3rd and 4th is a stormer.
Absolutely brilliant. Of course, the other driver who was in that group yesterday was Yashish Manohar. Did not put a foot wrong today. Unfortunately, he's put both feet wrong, and he's in the pits. But Alex Renner, he was the one who started at the very back of the field yesterday. Didn't make enormous progress, caught up in other people's problems, but he's gone right over to the grandstand side, on the pit wall side. Stanislav Novikov couldn't have got any close to the pit wall, but he's now left half a chink. Not quite enough. He's locked up into the first corner. Brilliant entry from Chen Han Lin. I didn't think he could get the braking done. Novikov has still got his nose just in front, but if Chen Han Lin can keep his foot in as they get to turn 5, he's managed to do so. He's up the inside. Who's gaining in the back? Alex Renner. Stay out of the way, Alex. Just wait a moment.
Yeah, they were almost bump drafting each other down that start-finish straight, and it looked like they were gaining speed, the two of them together, as opposed to Alex Renner all on his own, as you say, right over to the left-hand side of the circuit. Novikov's back in front there. How did he pull that off? Because I thought Chen Han Lin had all the inside lines through 4, 5, 6 and 7, but it is Novikov who appears back in front in 2nd position. Still great drag from the number 10 car.
And I'll tell you why. Novikov showed yesterday he really doesn't mind taking a very, very wide line through corners. He's very happy to go right out to the edge. But I thought, particularly on a circuit like this, the very edge is the edge of adhesion. But he seemed to just get enough grip through 6 and 7, and then double back round into 8 and 9, down the back straight. He's just in front. We're about to have a moment. No, not quite. I thought we were going to have some more readjusting of door mirrors, but somehow the Russian driver, Novikov, just gets the braking done into turn 10. Alex Renner must be thinking, come on, you guys. You're on the brink of giving me 2nd place.
So Renner doesn't quite know where to put his car right now. He's much faster out of turn 11 and up the hill towards 12. But Novikov and Chen Han Lin more concentrated perhaps on themselves, and very easily, stealth-like, although it's an all-white car, so easy to spot. Alex Renner might well gain at least 1 spot. He's got, again, good speed coming down the hill out of 12 through the kink at turn 13, and now the hairpin at turn 14, which is very tricky on the brakes, particularly for Novikov. And Alex Renner tried it there because the door was left well open by the Unique Racing car of Chen Han Lin. But then Lin saw him approaching, I reckon, in the mirrors, and just steered that little bit more to the left to close the door. Far from decided with 44 seconds left on the clock. Again, down the hill, that corner at 16 littered with little pieces of polystyrene, showing through the course of the weekend, I'm sure a couple of marker boards have gone for a Burton. And again, it's a similar style as we had a lap ago. Right over to the right-hand side of the pit wall is Novikov and Chen Han Lin. Alex Renner staying well out to the left.
Jerzy Spinkovic, meanwhile, as they approach turn 1, is turning into turn 5. He'll be at turn 6, they turn into turn 1, but importantly, the defensive line from Novikov is enough to hold back Chen Han Lin in behind Alex Renner in 4th place, pushing Probring not quite as quick as the others, but where they trip themselves up, he gets back onto their tail. But at the moment, 2nd, 3rd is where the fighting is, but the car in 4th, Alex Renner, the German racer, may yet move up into that 2nd place. But for Jerzy Spinkovic, the clock has got to the end of 25 minutes. We have one further lap, but he's heading down the back straight as they turn in to turn 7.
So with a lap and a half to go, Ji Cao still on his own in 5th position. Kevin Day, sadly no one really to fight with right now in 6th, but there's a good scrap behind him involving Ahmed Al-Malehi and Will Morrison, who switched positions a lap ago. Al-Malehi now ahead of Morrison in the 69 car. Spinkovic turning right through turn 10, just at the point where Novikov, Chen Han Lin and Alex Renner begin their run down the back straight. Renner again favouring the left-hand side of the circuit. Can he, unnoticed, outbrake the two of them? They're almost 3 abreast, although there's a bit of foreshortening from the camera to take into account. Clipping the curb is Stanislav Novikov, still in 2nd position. And a brief wink of the right-hand indicator for Chen Han Lin, indicating quite how busy he is in the office space. Up the hill towards turn 12 they go, still in the same order.
Now, this will come as no surprise. They're slowing themselves down with their race actions. They're lapping in the 2 minutes 27s. Ji Cao will be the next driver in the frame. He's about 5 seconds down, but another couple of laps, he'd be able to catch them. He's 2 seconds a lap faster because he's completely on his own. Admittedly, of course, he was very busy in the office in the first half of the race with that battle, often a bit bruising with Yashish Manohar. But 2nd and 3rd and 4th, who's going to lock up? It's Renner locking up into turn 14 this time. They've got to do it one more time, but it's still Stanislav Novikov holding on in that 2nd place, but only just from Chen Han Lin. Jerzy Spinkovic, well, he was 20 seconds clear last time around, and no doubt he's stretched another good lap. He's put in another 2 minute 24. They're lapping in 2 minute 27, so do the maths.
Oh, and a squirm from Novikov. That's going to compromise his line onto the main straight, and this is Chen Han Lin's best opportunity of the race so far. Remember how close he has been on the start-finish straight. He now crucially has the inside line, so no longer can Novikov be just a bumper ahead of the 58 car, and as long as Chen Han Lin can be slightly later on the brakes into turn number 1, he'll have it on Novikov, but Novikov is going to tough it out on the outside line. Where is Alex Renner again? He hasn't quite got the straight line speed of the 2 cars ahead of him, and Novikov, we know, is strong on that middle track, effectively around 4, 5, 6, 7 as well. And a lap ago, somehow he came out in front. He's going to do the same again. Oh, but he's lost it. He's lost it out of nowhere. I thought that he'd done the job and it would have been absolutely fine in the 7 and 8, but without any contact, loses the car, but amazingly keeps it out of the barrier at turn 6.
Taking the words, how does he do that, out of my mouth. I didn't think the laws of physics applied to him, because clearly he couldn't carry that much pace around the outside, but no is not a... He doesn't give... he just doesn't put no up there as an opportunity.
It's too much curb, isn't it?
Yeah.
Too much curb at 5. Otherwise, he would have been okay. And that's the thing about the car, I suppose, in the middle of the circuit and indeed onto the outside of turn 1. You can carry a little bit more speed. That gives you the favourable line through turn 2. And it looked like they might remain 2 abreast all the way through 5, 6, 7 and possibly 8 as well. But just hitting the curb when the car was unsettled for Stanislav Novikov, he spins and will rejoin in 5th.
Yeah, so Ji Cao, who, as I was saying, was 5 seconds down on them, but closing in by 2 seconds a lap, has moved up into 4th place. Now, Alex Renner, can he depose Chen Han Lin? But I must say, hats off to Chen Han Lin for the way he tackled, makes his moves down the inside into turn 1. He's been very strong, but it was all about the better exit from turn 16. In previous laps, he'd been tucked down on the pit wall side under the tail of Novikov. This time, he was side by side by the time they got quarter of the way down the straight. And the checkered flag will be there to greet him shortly, but it's been taken by our race leader, Jerzy Spinkovic. He was 23 seconds clear last time around. That's 2 phenomenal races for the Polish driver.
So 12 laps to complete the second race of the season for the Clio Cup Middle East. It's another win for Jerzy Spinkovic. More penalties coming in fairly late on. The contact between Manahar and the 32 car at turn 14 is being looked at, 32 being Alexander Chachavar. So they did make contact, as I suggested, out of turn 14 and into 15. And multiple side contacts still under investigation between Manahar and car 65 G Cow, who crosses the line in 4th position behind the podium finishers. Jerzy Spinkovic winning, Chen Han-Lin second, and Alex Renner hanging on to 3rd position. Of course, Renner, his reward for sitting there in 4th for a long time and waiting for something to happen was the spin happened for Novikov, and Renner is able to inherit a podium spot. And a much more recognised result, as perhaps he was certainly hoping for yesterday, and his pace would have suggested he might be able to grab a podium, but it was a qualifying infringement that put him much further back on the grid.
Well, I think whatever penalties are going to apply will not apply to our race winner. Talk about this for consistency. 2 race starts, 2 pole positions, 2 wins. Yesterday he won by 24.6 seconds. Today he's really pushed it out. 25.4. He's extended his advantage, but Jerzy Spinkovic, you know, if the others don't get up with him, he can't race with them. Absolutely phenomenal drive for him. So Unique Racing will be very, very pleased indeed.
It looks like, well, there's been no further announcement about 65 and 88, so we'll assume that's still under investigation. There was a warning flag then for Manahar for track limit infringements. The contact between 88 and 32 is going to be investigated after the race. That was the Manahar versus Chachava at turn 14. And one further race control message tells us that car 32 got a 5-second penalty for repeatedly exceeding track limits. That's Alexander Chachava as well. So all sorts happening. We had 3 independent class winners, of course. Jerzy Spinkovic in the main class, Chen Han-Lin championship winner, and Alex Renner the gentleman winner. They all finished on the overall podium, which is great to see as well. A 1-2 finish for Unique Racing, but 25 and a bit seconds between the two of them. Alex Renner, as I say, winning the gentleman class for AR Motors. Then it was G Cow in the 65 car finishing 4th ahead of Stanislav Novikov in the Continental Racing entry, and XL Motorsport get their car in the top 6 for Kevin Day despite the in-race penalty. Does that take that into account? Possibly. There is a 5-second gap there in actual fact, but there was on the road. So I think Kevin Day will tumble further down the order from that. 6th. Ahmed Al-Malehi 7th ahead of Will Morrison and James Greenwood, with Nadir Zuhur completing the top 10. Charlie Simmons had a spin on the opening lap. Alexander Chachava had significant contact at turn 14 with Yashish Manahar, and Yashish Manahar together with Chen Yi Lin actually finishing the race in the pit lane, therefore actually not taking the checkered flag. Chen Yi Lin only completed 3 laps, in fact, so a quarter distance, and he got no further. But dramatic stuff once more from the Clio Cup Middle East. I think you can expect this for the rest of their season as well, and just goes to show that these Renault Clios, fairly aged as they are now, I suppose, as a car model, still provides superb racing.
They really do, and I think the combination of a flowing circuit like this with width and opportunity to make your passes really pays dividend. They will have learnt a lot. Jerzy Spinkovic doesn't really need to learn very much at all because he's clearly got it all totally under control, but a lot of the drivers will now know, ooh, that line into turn 14, possibly not best advised, but of course every time they're aiming in, someone else is in a different position in front of them. For Yashish Manahar, he learnt some hard lessons, I think, today. Yesterday he was supreme in defending second place. Today he was doing a bit more of the attacking, and it didn't prove to be his forte, unfortunately.
No, and that's tough, I suppose, when you have worked so hard to get a result that maybe your lap speed didn't necessarily deserve, and all the excitement of completing that, but then it's about that difficult second day, that difficult second album, if you like, being able to repeat that once again. Not quite 24 hours later, but the cars around you, the drivers around you, have learnt so much about how the track evolves across a relatively short distance, but they are not necessarily going to get the bad luck that they'd had leading into day one, like Alex Renner, like Chen Han-Lin as well. So good to get a different take on the podium, although Jerzy Spinkovic is the runaway winner again. And we're waiting now for Jerzy to get out of the car and hopefully head in the direction of Joe Bradley. Joe, good morning to you. A chat with the pole.
Clio.
Yeah, it was a long race. For sure, it helped that the guys behind me were fighting. So yeah, I could just keep on going. The first gaining an advantage. And yeah, big thanks to my team, of course, everyone who supports me, and congratulations to other drivers.
Okay, what is the secret of driving this Renault Clio? But another 14-second win? That's unheard of in Renault Clios.
Yeah, a lot of practice. Just driving and driving, yeah.
Congratulations once again. I'll leave you to the podium and the champagne. Well done, Jerzy.
Jerzy Spinkovic just caught a little bit from his website, saying that he started his racing career in rental karting when he was only 8 and has worked his way up through Clios and, as Bruce has been saying, done some good stuff around Europe over the last few years. It'll be exciting to see whether he maybe will make the 24 Hours of Dubai in forthcoming seasons. Speaking of which, well, it's the 6 Hours of Abu Dhabi next weekend, which forms the third and final round of the Middle Eastern Championship, and that also part of the main championship as well. But the Clio Cups races will be taking place on that weekend too, across the 20th, 21st and 22nd of January at the Yas Marina circuit. What's that, about an hour's drive from here, in support of the 6 Hours of Abu Dhabi. But Jerzy Spinkovic, with the second win in as many days, will mean that he very easily leads the Clio Cup Middle East Championship, heading to Yas Marina in 7 days' time for their next races. My thanks to Joe Bradley for that quick interview at the end of the race.